Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Vedic Astrology Podcast. My name is Fiona Marques, and today we have the sun entering the tropical sign of Cancer. It is our solstice, the highest point of the sun in the northern hemisphere and the lowest point in the southern hemisphere. So it is the perfect day for us to dive deep into the energy field of Cancer from the perspective of this solar transit and see what we can learn about the energy that is around at this time of our zodiac cycle. And this solar transit begins on the 20th of June, today, when the sun is entering the tropical sign of Cancer. The other movements that happen during this solar month of Cancer energy is that Mercury, which is already in Cancer, on the 2nd of July, it's going to move into Leo. And then on the 11th of July, Venus is also going to move into Leo. So we have those two friends, Mercury and Venus, moving from Cancer into Leo during this solar month. But then on the 20th of July, we have Mars entering into Gemini. And finally, on the 22nd of July, the sun moves out and heads off into Leo energy. So not as many movements and changes as we had last month with the solar Gemini transit, but still a few things going on. And then we can also have a look at what's happening with the moon during this solar Cancer period. And we have a beautiful full moon sandwich of events at the beginning and end of this solar Cancer transit. So as you remember, the sun's going in the 20th of June into Cancer. On the 22nd of June, there will be a full moon in Capricorn at those very early degrees of Capricorn. And then the new moon in Cancer will be on the 5th of July. And the full moon at the end of that cycle still fits into this solar Cancer. It's going to be on the 21st of July. So we get a second full moon in Capricorn. So it's like a Capricorn Cancer full moon sandwich. We've got a full moon on either side of this solar Cancer transit. Okay, so putting that all together, there's quite a lot of action right at the beginning right now where we are. We've got the sun coming in on the 20th of June, and then just a couple of days later on the 22nd, we've got the full moon in Capricorn. So quite a beginning, because we also know, of course, that when the sun enters Cancer, that is the longest day in the northern hemisphere or the shortest day in the southern hemisphere. It's that kind of moment where it almost feels like the sun stands still, hence that word, the solstice. So quite a powerful beginning to this solar month. Then, as we said, on the 2nd of July, Mercury is going into Leo. Then on the 5th of July, we have that new moon in Cancer right after Mercury has just left. And then following that up, we have Venus leaving Cancer and going into Leo on the 11th of July. So also some movements around that new moon. And then again, we're getting towards the end of solar Cancer. We're going to have on the 20th of July, Mars is moving into Gemini. The 21st of July, we have that second full moon in Capricorn. And then on the 22nd of July, Sun is moving into Leo. So this makes us really think about how much energy is happening in Cancer. And we want to look at the DNA of the energy field of Cancer, this part of the zodiac that we call Cancer. And we know that this is a zodiac sign that is ruled by the moon. And it is also a female sign. And at the same time, it's a dynamic or active sign, and it's also belongs to the water element. So these are some of the DNA of Cancer that helps us feel the difference between this part of the zodiac and other parts of the zodiac. We have been running this series now. This will be our 5th solar transit. So we began in a water sign in Pisces. But then we've followed the sun through that impulse in Aries, a fire sign, masculine active fire sign, pure impulse to begin our inspiration. Then we've had a look at solar Taurus, where we were in a feminine earth sign. And it was also a fixed sign, a chance to perhaps turn within and find the resources that are going to support this inspiration. We've all just survived that remarkably busy solar Gemini with so many transits, all of the planets arriving into Gemini and really stimulating that air sign, a mixed air sign. So it allows us to kind of process, improve. We had that stability of Taurus, looking at what it might take to turn the vision of Aries into reality. We've internalized that in Taurus, and then in Gemini we had the chance to begin to activate and externalize that again with this mixed energy in an air sign, lots of ideas, lots of mental energy, lots of stimulation and variety if your Gemini was anything like my Gemini. And now we're coming into our first water sign of the zodiac if we look at Aries as being the beginning. So we've had pure fire, pure earth, pure air, and now we're having pure water. Once again, we're in a feminine sign, so Cancer does encourage us to internalize and to reflect, to soak into this water energy of complete boundarylessness, acceptance. And of course, Cancer is often associated with our emotions. Emotions are often linked with water because emotions flow and they create, in fact, that kind of flow in life of not that dryness and stiffness and hard rock kind of feeling. It's the water that helps everything ease and glide and smooth. And in the case of Cancer, we want to learn to be comfortable with all of the flow of emotion, knowing that water comes and goes. Everything that we're experiencing will continue to move as they are emotions, they are in motion. However, it is also an active sign, so this is a chance for us to connect with our heart center and that inspiration that this cycle of the zodiac is all about, whatever that inspiration was for us in Aries, we now really get to connect that with the heart center to really feel it in the water of our body. Now, it's also a sattvic sign and a Brahman sign. And we have to remember that this is a place where Jupiter is exalted. So it's a very spiritual sign. It's a moksha kind of energy of Cancer. Every zodiac sign is unique, but in some ways Cancer is a completely different world, isn't it? Because they say, like as scientists, that we've explored the earth and the land, and we do all of our geology and archaeology, and we understand all of that land biology, and we've actually explored space quite a lot, and we've got all of these satellites and probes out there. But in some ways, we, as humans, we haven't explored water that much. It's like a foreign experience. There's still so much for us to learn about our own oceans here. And Cancer's a little bit like that, isn't it? And the water signs are a little bit like that. They're places that we can learn so much from exploring, and yet they have this boundaryless quality. So everything is always moving and changing, and it's dynamic, and that's what we have here in Cancer. And we were talking about that it's where Jupiter is exalted because it's a sattvic Brahman sign. And it's interesting, isn't it, that Jupiter would be exalted in a feminine sign? But it's also where Mars is debilitated. And it's partly because of that lack of boundaries that there's nothing here for Mars to push off against. Cancer is a place of complete acceptance. So Mars, although it's got that forward motion often, it can be a reaction to something that's happening. But when one doesn't have those things to push off against, Cancer can be quite disorientating perhaps. So Cancer is a place where we get to feel our feelings in the heart center, and also this gives us a chance to connect to others through the heart center and to feel compassion for others, to maybe have empathy, put ourselves in someone else's position. And this is perhaps why Jupiter is exalted here, that Jupiter has a lot of wisdom and that enormous, expansive understanding of everything. But Cancer helps Jupiter to empathize with how people are really experiencing life. And when you can combine the philosophy of Jupiter with the empathy and compassion that's naturally there as part of Jupiter but is highlighted by Cancer, then we can really connect with others. So this is a bit of a summary of the DNA of the field of Cancer. But what do we think that might mean for the sun? Because this is the excuse for our podcast, is to have a think about what is happening when the sun goes into a sign like Cancer. So we like to match up the DNAs, don't we, of the energy field and the planet. And we notice that the sun is a masculine planet. We have a feminine sign. The sun has got a fire kind of energy. Cancer has a water kind of energy. The sun is our inspiration, our unique creative impulse. And here it is in a sign of complete acceptance. So that is a wonderful thing. But at the same time, with this lack of boundaries of Cancer, this unique vision can be spread among all of the water. So maybe not a natural connection there in some ways with the fire and the water. And also when we feel that solar inspiration, it can often be because we want to make a change. And in Cancer, we might feel the acceptance and complete peace of being in the present with our emotions. Maybe there's actually a comfort of being held. Cancer is the sign of the mother or the moon, and the moon has mother energy. So perhaps one threat that it could have to the sun would be that we actually feel so accepted and comfortable that we do not have such a strong impulse to move and change. But this is really a chance for the sun to gather all of that inner confidence that it needs to move into Leo and make its vision into a reality. So this is like the harbor where we can really fulfill or fill up our self-assurance, our confidence from the inside, because Cancer is a feminine internal sign. So a chance to load up our ship that we use for exploring, to load it up with all of the goods, to do everything in the harbour that we need to do to know that we're ready to go out into Leo and take our vision from Aries and make it even more of a reality. Now, the other things to keep in mind about this particular solar transit through Cancer is that we have Venus in the sign of Cancer as well for a period of this transit. So when the Sun and Venus are together, they're considered enemies in Vedic astrology. Actually, they're considered enemies in Vedic astrology wherever they are, not just when they're in Cancer. But when they're together, there's this very different approach to life between the Sun and Venus. So the Sun ideally is our inspiration. It's unique and it's a creative impulse that is resonating with our individuality. If you think about the Sun being exalted in Aries, it's all about that spark of creative inspiration that's unique to me. And the invitation of the zodiac is to follow that inspiration and to bring fully ourselves, the Sun, bring it fully into humanity, to give our light, our pure light and our authentic, individual, unique light. So this is the Sun dynamic, to inspire and lead with this inspiration, perhaps going somewhere where no one has gone before. And this is in contrast to Venus' approach to life, which is feminine, that is all about equality and harmony and diplomacy and taste and good taste. So Venus is very in touch with the taste of the people and the taste of the times and the taste of the material world. Very connected to the somatic experience of being alive and allowing that to be the compass. Our connection to the moment through the senses, allow this to be our compass towards what is best for all. And so there's a natural habit of Venus to want to harmonize with others. It's also got the wetness energy, the water energy. So it wants to harmonize with everybody. It wants to listen to everybody and find a solution like we see in Libra, find a solution that is a good trade, good value for all parties. So that might mean compromising. And that would be perhaps one of the highest gifts that Venus can give, is to help us negotiate and have partnerships and trade and compromise about things. But this is in contrast to the sun's approach to life. And so when these two planets are together, there can be a real confusion about how much shall I follow my inspiration and how much shall I listen to others and get feedback from people and adapt my inspiration to be more palatable or even to be more realistic. So these two planets are together for kind of most of this transit, or a good portion of this transit. And so we may feel inside of ourselves some of that discussion about how much to stick to our original inspiration and how much to listen to others. And that's going to depend a little bit on your own chart and how those planets are working in your own birth chart, what their mission is in your own birth chart. So we can't really say whether to go one way or the other. However, as we are looking at this from a solar transit point of view, and we're following the sun through its zodiac journey, the sun here is going to face a couple of challenges. One is it's in a water sign, so it's got this complete acceptance, lack of boundaries, everything is harmonized. And then it's also with a planet that wants to encourage that openness and harmony and perhaps adapting and changing. So it'll be interesting how each of us experiences what this solar Cancer month is like on our inspirations. You might like to go back to what solar Aries was like for you, what it is that you really feel this year is offering, and what you committed to as your inspiration. And check in this month how it goes and monitor whether you're feeling pushed off course or whether you're actually feeling that the galleys of your ship are being filled with the confidence and resources that we need for the next part of our journey. Okay, so another interesting thing that's happening this solar Cancer month is that we have two full moons in Capricorn, one right at the beginning and one right at the end. And normally we look at the moon cycle as from new moon peaking to full moon and ebbing away to the next new moon. So we could look at this solar Cancer as having two quite separate moon cycles in it. Or I'm going to take the invitation today with these beautiful full moons creating a sandwich here to just look at what is the opportunity that is being offered by having two full moons in Capricorn. So we're going to have the sun in Cancer and the moon doing a full moon in Capricorn twice. We've spoken about Cancer energy. Let's contrast that a little bit with Capricorn energy, which is an earth sign. It's feminine as well. It is a sign of hard work. In fact, it's probably a sign of greatness, the sign where all of the resources that we need, the forests and the swamps and all of the wood and trees and rocks that we need are all there in Capricorn, but they take hard work. And the path is there to be found out of the swamp, through the forest, if we, in a disciplined way, sacrifice our softness and just put one foot in front of the other and keep going and going. Then Capricorn has a lot of rewards to give. But in some ways, it's the harsh reality kind of sign where there is just rules. There's real rules and they don't get bent for anybody. And we have to learn to work with them. So it's a very realistic and authentic sign. And we're going to have this opportunity to have two experiences of the energy flow between Cancer and Capricorn. And let's think about what that offers to us. So we are contrasting the heart center and the emotions with the rules of reality. So how can both of these things communicate with each other or have a flow between them? How can we use that acceptance of Cancer to go with the flow of the reality of the rules. And how can we take that focus of survival that Capricorn kind of brings us? How can we keep that focus of survival but be authentic to our heart center at the same time? Because we all know, we can imagine those old reality shows where Survivor or whatever it was, you get taken to an island and you have to survive. We can know that maybe sometimes that's the times when emotions get sacrificed and it just becomes all about surviving, and we don't necessarily look after our interpersonal connection with others. But it's actually truly a tribe survives because of the sharing of their vulnerability and the connections between the heart centers of the tribe. So these things are kind of opposites and they inform each other as well. It depends a little bit on which one's more emphasized in your chart. So if Capricorn is more emphasized in your chart, this double full moon of solar Cancer may give a chance to practice articulating what we're feeling in the heart center. Because when we're focused on doing hard work and being disciplined, and we've got our mind on the long game, the greatness of Capricorn, we can be out of the habit of speaking our emotional truth and can be afraid of opening up to that vulnerability, that it will be a weakness and it will derail our progress in Capricorn. So if Capricorn is more accentuated in your chart, perhaps this double full moon is a chance to connect with your own individual emotional truth, and through that build the self-confidence that we were talking about, that one can be a human being and survive. One can be that incredible alchemy of a human being, the softness and vulnerability that we all are, and the fact that we just keep going and going. We're so inventive and we're engineers of improving our experience, which is why Mars is exalted here in Capricorn. And whereas if it is Cancer that's more accentuated in your charts, perhaps these two full moons in Capricorn are a chance to accept with the heart fully open, accept the realities of life and go with the flow of the rules of life. And from that, we gain confidence that we can survive, or we can be successful, or we can interact out there in the real world. And in fact, for those of us with Cancer perhaps stronger and taking the opportunity of what the Capricorn full moons are offering us, maybe this is our compassion for others that really inspires us to take on projects that help everybody, to ensure the well-being of all of us because of the compassion that we feel from Cancer. Naturally, we want to take that into the everyman. That's a very Saturn kind of space of Capricorn, and make life better for everyone. It's not just about personally surviving Capricorn and the rules and the reality, but maybe we can have this inspiration of helping everyone with reality. And that vision might, the bigness of that vision and the compassion of that vision might help Cancer come into this Capricorn space. So I think it's very intriguing to have double opportunity to experience a Capricorn full moon. And I'd love to know how you plan to take advantage of that, and then what your experience is. And this strange situation of having the two full moons on either end, it feeds for me into a bit of a theme of this solar Cancer, which is that the entry of the sun into tropical Cancer marks the longest day of sunlight in the northern hemisphere and the shortest day of sunlight in the southern hemisphere. So it's got this highest point, lowest point kind of energy. It's got those extremes, just like the two full moons. It's the beginning of summer in the northern hemisphere. It's the beginning of winter in the southern hemisphere. The sun itself, being in Cancer, is in its natural 12th sign, right? Because the sun owns Leo. So it's in the 12th sign, which we often associate the 12th with endings and letting go. And then we have many planets in the beginnings and endings of signs as well. So we've got Neptune is right at the end of Pisces, just about to enter Aries, beginning its zodiac journey again. And then, of course, we have Pluto, which is just at the beginning of Aquarius, but beginning to move backwards towards Capricorn. So it's in the very beginning of the sign. Of course, we have the sun, full moon are both happening. The first one happening at the very beginning of Cancer, the last one happening at the very end of Cancer. And when we do have Mercury, Venus, and Mars are all going to cross over the end of a sign and go into the beginning of another sign. So it feels like there's a sort of ending, beginning energy to this solar Cancer month. And so I'd love to know how that resonates with you as well. And then there's a very unique situation which I do not profess to be able to explain, and that I hope we will get our resident astronomer back to talk to us about. But we have the solstice happening today. And solstice comes from a word, solstitium, which means sun standing still, a Latin expression for the sun standing still. And it's like it gets to the top of the arc, and then it, from our perspective, looks like it stays there and then begins its downward, from the northern hemisphere, its downward descent back towards the equinox. But we're also having this lunar standstill right now. This is the bit that I don't know that I can do justice to explaining, but we have an ecliptic, an imaginary line, in which all of the planets are on, above, or below this ecliptic. And it's what you can see in the sky where you see the path of the sun, but all of the planets also transit in a small and defined range of space, which we call the ecliptic. But they can move above and below that line from our perspective. And right at the moment, the moon is in one of those phases where it's the furthest from the ecliptic. And this is creating a kind of lunar standstill. So as we have this full moon right at the time of the solstice, I encourage you to go out and have a look at the full moon in a couple of nights' time and see whether you agree that its path seems a little different. And we'll hope to get our resident astronomer to come and explain that. It's called a metonic cycle, and it happens just like Rahu and Ketu. It happens every 18.6 years. So it's one of those, what scientists would call coincidence, where the lunar months and the solar months over that 18.6 year period, they actually just flukily line up. So I think when we look at the endings and beginnings that are being offered by Cancer, and then we have this kind of standstill energy of the solstice and the lunar standstill, solar Cancer is offering us something quite unique over the next month. A chance to maybe pause and to profoundly be in the stillness of the water, of the complete acceptance. And so let's see how that plays for each ascendant. Now, keep in mind that these ascendants, all of us have so many unique things going on that we can't possibly speak about all Cancer ascendants or all Libra ascendants. Your own chart is the most important part of this puzzle piece. But we can, for fun, have a think about what does it mean when the sun is in Cancer from the perspective of each ascendant. So what you need to know to find this out is, perhaps if you don't know what your ascendant or rising sign is, pop onto the internet, put in your birth time and birthplace, and it will let you know what sign of the zodiac was rising on the eastern horizon at the time of that birth, and that becomes your rising sign or ascendant. And it's from that we count the houses. And in Vedic astrology, we usually use the whole sign and the whole house. So wherever your ascendant degree is in that particular sign, the whole sign becomes the first house. So that's what we're using for our playful look at what the sun is doing for each ascendant. Before we dive into each ascendant, here is the Kala chart for Yamakoti for that moment of the sun entering Cancer. And it's interesting that it has a Cancer ascendant, right? Nice invitation there to dive even more deeply into Cancer energy this particular solstice. So let's begin our journey by having a look at Aries ascendant. And for an Aries ascendant, the sun is the fifth lord. And when it's in Cancer, that would mean that it is in the fourth house of an Aries ascendant's chart. So we have the number 5 mixed with the number 4. 5 is a trinal number and 4 is an angular number. So we really like that combination in Vedic astrology because we've got auspicious trinal energy, a sense of grace, mixed with an activated angular house. And we must notice that Mars is the ascendant lord for Aries ascendant, and it is in the second house, and it's actually in friend dignity there in Taurus. Now, when we think about the sun as the fifth lord in the fourth house, we might think about what a natural leadership combination that is, because the fifth house is inspiring and the fourth house is allowing us to connect with people in the heart center. So perhaps for Aries ascendant, this is a time when your human leadership skills are going to be accentuated. It might point to a good relationship with your mother this month. We've got the fourth house of the mother. And it is also a nice combination for education because the fourth house is all about learning and perhaps even going to bring a sense of happiness from learning. And that goes as well for the home as a source of happiness this solar month. And a nice time to practice mantras. They're associated with the fifth house. We think of the fifth house as being about intelligence. So having it in the fourth perhaps is going to enhance your emotional intelligence. And the only thing to watch out is exactly what we talked about in the beginning, is how much of is our emotions affecting our inspiration and intelligence. So that's something to be aware of. And we may find that with this transit, we do feel that alignment. That's the best, isn't it? Is we take our inspiration all the way from Aries and we put it in the heart center and it clicks. That's why Vedic astrologers love 5 and 4 or any trinal angular combination. But that risk is there that if the comfort, are we going to choose an easy path rather than what the sun really wants? The sun is into sacrifice and the greater and higher good, building for the long term. So is there some tension between those, or is there a really natural fit? That's what Cancer is offering for an Aries ascendant. Things to keep in mind. We already talked about that the first lord is in the second house, and then it will move into the third house during this transit as well. And we still have Rahu on the ascendant for Aries ascendant. So there's still Rahu transiting through the first house, which for all of us experiencing the nodes going through our first house, we know it's a time of turmoil that could be great, stirring up things, or could be just creating a lot of uncertainty. But that's where transformation happens. So just acknowledging that we have Rahu on the first house for Aries ascendants. And then the final thing to talk about is, where is that full moon axis going to be? So we're going to have the sun is going to be in the fourth house, which means the full moon is going to take place in the 10th house. And that 4-10 continuum is all about the inside and the outside. So the fourth house is about the home and the heart center, and the 10th house is about our career, what we do outside of the house, our fame. So an inside-outside continuum with 4 and 10. So this is very purely balancing the emotions and reality, what we talked about with Cancer about emotions, Capricorn about reality, accepting and adapting to life's realities, and acceptance of emotion as the road to inner peace, and a realism about the external world. So holding both of those truths together, an acceptance of emotions as the road to inner peace, and a realism about the external world. Now, for Taurus ascendants, we have the sun is the fourth lord going into the third house. And Venus is also going to be in that third house, but then it's moving into the fourth house. So our ascendant lord is mirroring these numbers, the 4 and the 3. Venus is in great enemy dignity during this transit, and we already said it is with the sun. So for Taurus ascendant, our ascendant lord is with the sun, and we've talked about how the sun and Venus together don't quite know what to value, how much to value their own inspiration and how much to value their harmony with others. And this is a little bit picking up this number 4 energy and number 3 energy. So the number 4 is about the stability and contentment of our inner peace, and number 3 is all about effort and dynamic change and experimenting. It naturally brings to mind ideas of acquiring wealth through our own efforts, the 4th house of abundance with the 3rd house of our own effort, feeling comfortable in our teams, with our peers, with our siblings, perhaps working to improve the land or real estate, but ideally the sun representing something about our inner peace. In the 3rd house, maybe we're just a little bit too active to feel that relaxed contentment, maybe creating a restless heart. And even when we have the 4 and the 3 together, perhaps even some unexpected accidents. We also want to note that Mars is going to move also during this transit from where it is on the ascendant for a Taurus ascendant. Mars is on the ascendant. It's going to move then into the 2nd house. So maybe for Taurus ascendant, there is a little bit of challenge here with how do we be at peace but also be growing and learning and experimenting and exploring. That's a theme for this Taurus solar Cancer transit. And in a way that's also emphasized by the full moon, because the sun will be in the 3rd, meaning that the full moon will be in the 9th. And this is a continuum kind of about learning, isn't it? The 3rd is learning through doing and experimentation. And the 9th is learning through faith and surrender and intuition and through our teachers. So this continuum is asking us how much to experiment and how much to take things on faith, how much to surrender to things and how much to question everything. And with the balance for a Taurus ascendant, we've got the 3rd is in Cancer, so experimenting with our emotions and being realistic about our faith and philosophy and intuitions. For Gemini ascendant, the sun is the 3rd lord and it's going to be in the 2nd house. Gemini is a Mercury ascendant, and Mercury is in great enemy dignity at the start of this transit. It is also in sign with the sun. It's getting delighted, but it's also getting agitated there. And while we have the sun, the 3rd in the 2nd, we're also going to have Mercury itself moving from the 2nd into the 3rd. So once again, we're emphasizing the same numbers here. And they're the number 2 and 3, the number 2 about our voice and our values and what we take responsibility for and what we earn our money, how we take responsibility for earning money, is there with the number 3, which is all about self-effort and experimentation. And hobbies. So maybe this is going to be like linking our income and hobbies, working hard, motivated. Maybe there's going to be some extra motivation to earn. But of course, at the same time, we could get distracted from earning and spend more time with our hobbies. So the sun here, the 3rd lord in the 2nd house, is giving some invitation around hobbies and interests and our income. We might have some travels around our income, and we might find that our siblings or peers or friends are somehow involved with our work. And this is amplifying a lot of the energy that we already had from solar Gemini, because Mercury here and the sun here are going to continue our interest in communication, in technology, speaking about technology, being vocal, the 2nd house being vocal about what we're interested in. And this could give us challenges as well in how we earn our money. but it might give us a strong focus on money, that motivation that we want to earn money. Now, we also may be picking up on that theme. We've got Jupiter on the ascendant for Gemini ascendant, which Jupiter is a karaka for money and opportunities and growth. So maybe this third lord in the second house, solar Cancer, is going to have some emphasis on income and money. And actually, maybe that links with the full moon placement as well, because we're going to have the sun in the second house and the full moon in the 8th house. And this is a continuum of resources. The second house of taking responsibility for my income, and the 8th house of being supported by other people's money. And this continuum is really interesting around how much we trust others to look after us and how much we take responsibility for ourselves. It's about responsibility and feeling supported, how much we earn off our own efforts, and how much maybe there are grants that support us or inheritance that support us, or just generally there's a trust or some kind of fund that is supporting us. That's what this continuum is all about. For a Gemini ascendant, it is going to be the sun there taking emotional responsibility in that second house position. And the moon over there in Capricorn is having the invitation to be realistic about what support we need. So a chance, we were talking about articulating our emotions and feeling our needs and being able to state them. So this full moon, double full moon cycle is an opportunity to feel the trust in the self for what I can earn and the trust in others to support me and letting them know that I need support. For Cancer ascendant, the sun is the second lord and it's here in the first house. So we have that income and responsibility, our voice and how we value ourselves right here on the first house. And there's something here about how we value ourselves. So it may make us financially minded. We've got the second lord in the first house. We might be interested in managing our resources. Self-worth might be linked to our ability to meet our responsibility. We want to earn through our own effort. But that can, on the downside, that can be very hard work and we might feel a little isolated. And it's good to remember that balance of reaching out to others. Because the second lord might be a chance to enjoy our immediate family or enjoy some nourishment, some good food, looking after the body in that way. Our voice may seem more influential for Cancer ascendants this month with the sun, the second lord, in our first house. And we may be exploring how much to be loyal to the self and how much to be loyal to the family, the immediate family. So having the second lord in the first house might create those kind of questions for us. We know that the two full moons are going to take place in a conversation between this first house and the seventh house. That continuum is all about how much emphasis to put on the self and how much emphasis to put on others. And this kind of echoes that self-value theme that we've been talking about with Cancer, because we have the second lord in the first house about valuing the self. And the full moons taking place in the seventh are also going to be asking us about how do we value ourselves in relation to other people. And we know that we have the Sun-Venus kind of combination for a lot of this transit, which is also asking us how much do we value our unique inspiration and how much do we compromise with others to be in harmony. So the full moons on the 1-7 axis are balancing the acceptance of emotions in others and the acceptance of emotions in the self, and perhaps accepting one's emotional truth, because the sun in Cancer is asking us to accept our emotional truth and be realistic and pragmatic about the state of others' emotions, because the full moon is going to be over there in Capricorn. For Leo ascendant, we have the sun as the first lord. It's in the 12th house. It's in neutral dignity. It is this bright sun, soul, inspiration in the 12th house. So it is definitely highlighting our ability to connect to our unconscious, to maybe connect to the hidden emotions of others. It's giving us a chance to be in the dream world. Maybe we're going to have some good dreams or benefit from our dreams or our contemplations. Maybe we're going to have some deep sleep, or maybe we're going to even feel like we need to rest more than normal. And maybe it inspires us to take a pilgrimage. Maybe this solstice, you're going to go somewhere to have that moment of stillness and silence. It gives us a real focus on moksha, having the sun in the 12th house, on liberation. It can give us a sense of wanting to escape from things. That's also the 12th house. It can be a little bit ungrounded or fantasy world when we spend time in the 12th house, and it is Cancer, a water sign, which may leave us feeling like we have no ambition. I think we talked about the wonderful benefits of Cancer, but perhaps some of the dangers as well. The 12th is also a place of secret enemies, so I don't know if anything will show up there for you. But it is a place for dealing with endings and beginnings, and that seems to be one of the themes of this solar transit, with the solstice happening and also with this lunar standstill, and then with so many planets at the beginnings and endings. So maybe a good time to reflect on beginnings and endings. Of course, the 12th Lord, which is the moon for Leo Ascendant, is going to have 2 full moons, and they're going to be over there in the 6th house. So a lot of emphasis on the 12th for Leo Ascendants. The full moons are happening on that 12-6 or 6-12 axis, and this axis is all about material, the hard work that it takes to be here on planet Earth. That's the number 6. And the 12, which is the complete transcendence and liberation. So where are we on that continuum? The continuum gives us questions around when should we let go of things? When should we work hard for things? What is reality? What is fantasy? What is mundane and important? What is immaterial and important? And maybe because the sun is going to be in the 12th, we could say that Cancer is offering us a complete letting go, and at the same time a realistic approach to service, the 6th house of service. So that might be something to contemplate during this solar transit. For Virgo ascendants, we have the 12th Lord in the 11th. So the sun is the 12th Lord for Virgo ascendants, and Mercury as the ascendant Lord is in great enemy dignity. At the start of this transit, it's in that mix with the sun and Venus there in Cancer. And while we have the sun, the 12th Lord in the 11th, we're also going to have the ascendant Lord Mercury moving from the 11th to the 12th. So these 2 numbers, 11 and 12, are getting mixed together. The 11th is all about the gains that we get from the whole cycle, and the 12th is the end of the cycle. So in some ways this is like a culmination, but it could be that we're ready to let go of something as well. Something that was really important, that we've worked really hard for, is now over. So the 12th Lord in the 11th perhaps is going to give us a chance to contemplate, meditate, maybe once again a sense of fantasy, following our dreams. Maybe our dreams are going to help us have aspirations for our gains, but we could feel in some ways let down or frustrated, depressed. It's like a letting go thing. It's a grieving that when we're ready for it, that feels like letting go. And when it's more like something that we're losing, we can feel that sense of loss. Having the 12th Lord in the 11th is maybe a great time to trade, like a more like import-export trade, not trade stocks. Trade things with other cultures or on the internet, making deals with faraway places, and maybe vacations to faraway places. But also this is going to give the sun being the 12th in the 11th, give us an interest in helping others in our community. maybe even feeling that compassion from Cancer, feeling that compassion for the underdog. But there could be also a loss of community connection. Depends how the sun is working in your chart. And for a Virgo ascendant, the full moons is happening on the continuum of 11 and 5. So this is a continuum of the individual, that's number 5, and the collective, that's the number 11. So this continuum really asks us to balance our emotions, the emotions of the self and the emotions of the tribe. How to be true to both of those things. How to accept the emotions and reality of the self in one's community. And in this case, we're going to have the sun in the 11th, so accepting the emotions of the collectives and being realistic about one's own creative legacy. That's what Capricorn is going to help us with in the 5th house, those full moons giving us a chance to be authentic and realistic about our creativity and legacy. For Libra ascendant, the sun is the 11th lord and it's in the 10th house. We know that Venus is in great enemy dignity at the start of this transit, and it's in that mix with the sun. So it's being agitated, but it's also in that clash of values with the sun around how much to be harmonious and how much to follow one's own unique vision. We also have the ascendant lord moving from the 10th to the 11th. So that's being emphasized in 2 different ways. And we have K2 on the ascendant for Libra ascendants. When we have the number 10 and 11 together, this is really, the 11th grows things and amplifies things. So it's amplifying the career for this person. Maybe there's praise and recognition for career at this moment. It's a month to maybe improve one's status. Maybe you're going to receive titles and awards, but it could be a time when then we become overburdened with work, because that's how the 11th lord can be a yoga breaker in Vedic astrology, is that we, for that praise, we actually give more and we work more, we work too long. So we could maybe take on too many responsibilities and feel a bit burned out. So a balance for a Libra ascendant this month, balancing that recognition around the career. But maybe it's a chance to increase our multiple streams of income or running multiple businesses at once. And at its highest, this is a chance for our work to be in harmony with our personal dreams and desires. That's, if our sun is working well, that's an opportunity of having the 11th lord in the 10th house in Cancer. But if it's not working well, those aspirations and desires can really interfere with just doing the 10th house work. It's an Arthur house after all. We might do business with large companies. That's what the 11th can represent. It could be involving the government as well. We could be involved with influential people and have a good sense of politics. And hopefully the sun here is giving us a chance to make the sun's vision come true in the 10th house. And our full moons, of course, are also happening on the 10th house, 4th house axis. And we talked about this with Aries ascendant, that this continuum is about the inside and the outside. The 4th house is our heart center and our home and our comfort. And the 10th is our career and our fame and what we do outside of the house. So we're on that continuum somewhere, balancing our emotions and reality and accepting and adapting to life's reality. So in this particular setup, we're going to have the sun in the 10th house. And maybe our question is the praise about work taking you away from your inner peace, and being realistic about what we need for our inner peace and for our home. For Scorpio ascendant, the sun is the 10th lord and it's in the 9th house. So here, once again, we have that combination of an angular number, the 10, with a trinal number, the 9. So we have that sense of auspicious grace being activated. Mars itself is in friend dignity at the start of this solar month of Cancer. And the 10th lord in the 9th house gives us the idea that something fortunate is happening with our career. Maybe we feel inspired with our work at the moment, feel a sense of purpose and duty. feeling like taking its inspired initiative. And maybe we're empowering others. And this sense of pursuing our dharma, maybe we're going to feel quite inspired about that in our work this month. We might be able to make progress around law or education because we've got the 9th house involved here, and focus on ideals, philosophy, our approach, and how we're going to get that to balance with the real world. Hopefully it's a very inspiring experience. I think it has all the makings of that, but sometimes our ideals don't quite match up with what is possible in the real world. Another thing to keep in mind is that the Ascendant Lord is moving from the 7th into the 8th during this transit. For the Ascendant Lord, we also have the opportunity of some transformation, something unexpected, possibly. So keep that in mind. And then we want to think about the moon. The full moons are going to be taking place on the 9 and the 3 continuum, which we spoke about, which is like a learning continuum. How much are you going to learn from your teachers, from religions, from things that are written down, from the traditional way of doing things? How much are you going to learn by surrendering to that and the intuition and the wisdom? And how much are you going to learn from experimenting and making mistakes and just learning by doing, from exploring? So this is the continuum of 3-9 or 9-3. In this case, the sun is going to be in the 9th and the moon is going to be in the 3rd. Maybe we are going to have doubts based on reality, and we're going to have questions about that. But we're going to have the grace coming from complete acceptance. That's what Cancer is offering us. The sun in the 9th. Our doubts and questions might be very useful applied to the material world while we feel supported by the grace and the complete acceptance of the sun being in Cancer. And for Sagittarius Ascendant, the sun is the 9th Lord in the 8th house. Jupiter is in neutral dignity in Gemini. And when we have 9 and 8, we've got this great trinal number of good fortune, the 9th Lord, the sun, but it's in the 8th house of sudden and unexpected change and transformation. So we are hoping for sudden bouts of good fortune. Maybe you're going to get some dividends from some investment. And also it could be a good time to study occult things like astrology or psychology. But it might also be a time when we question our beliefs and question what ideals are worth following. It could be a time of sudden breaks and changes in our educational path. And we could possibly be subject to falls, both physically and from positions. And Sagittarius, we know, has that. In Gemini, he talks about Sagittarius while preceding a fall from a vehicle or a great height. So keep that in mind with Sagittarius Ascendant. The Ascendant Lord is in the 7th, exploring how we relate to others. And the 2 full moons are going to be on the 8 and 2 continuum, which is about resources. Number 2 is about taking responsibility for earning my own money and taking responsibility for looking after myself. And the 8th is other people's money, so being supported by funds or trusts or by a grant or being supported by others. So it can be a continuum that's about trust as well, like how much do I trust others to look after myself? How much do I back myself? And when do I ask for help? All of those interesting questions on the 8 and 2 axis. And the 2nd house is going to have the full moon twice. So maybe it's taking responsibility for being realistic and allowing for that potential of change and transformation in the emotions. So taking responsibility for being realistic, which gives us the stability to allow for these emotional transformations that the sun is offering in the 8th house in Cancer. For Capricorn ascendants, we have the sun as the 8th Lord. It's in the 7th house. Saturn is over there in Pisces, in friend dignity. It'll be, therefore, Saturn will be in the 3rd house for Capricorn ascendants. When we have 8 and 7 together, it makes us think about deep investigation. So maybe the Sun is going to be inspired to learn and analyze about things. It also tells us perhaps it's more about our partner. Maybe the partner is going to be interested in psychology or astrology or research or the mysteries of things. Or maybe the partner is going to be going through some kind of crisis during this solar transit of Cancer. And there is the potential for breaks and changes in our partnerships or transformations in our partnerships. And we do have the Ascendant in the 3rd, which we also makes us want to experiment as well. The full moon is going to be in the 1st house and the Sun is going to be all the way over in the 7th. So we're looking at 7 and 1 or 1 and 7 continuum. This is about the balance between the self and others. How do we accept emotions in the self and in others? In this case, being realistic about our own self and the acceptance of emotions in others, that it is okay that others are emotional and emotionally vulnerable and that people are different from us and operate differently from us. So perhaps this is a thing that can be explored during solar Cancer. Aquarius ascendants find the Sun as the 7th Lord in the 6th house for this solar transit. Saturn itself, the Ascendant Lord, is in friend dignity. It's in the 2nd house in Pisces. This happening, the Sun being in Cancer, being the 7th Lord, perhaps this helps us relate to people who are suffering, maybe caring for the common person, for people that have fallen on hard times. But it can mean perhaps that our partner, the 7th, is maybe going to feel that they're coming up against obstacles this particular month. Maybe they're feeling, we've got our Ascendant Lord will be in the 2nd house of taking responsibility. So it'll be interesting with this, perhaps the partner going through some obstacles or attention to their daily routine. And these 2 full moons are happening on the 6th and the 12th axis. So the Sun will be in the 6th, the full moon will be in the 12th. This is an axis about being grounded versus transcending, about doing the daily hard work of the Arthur house of the 6th versus the moksha potential, the liberation and the escaping of the 12th. And it asks us to question when to let go of things versus when to knuckle down and face reality and do the hard work. It contrasts for us the real world with the fantasy world and the mundane with the sort of non-material. So in this case, we're going to have the full moon in the 12th. So maybe that realism of Capricorn is realism about what to let go of and an acceptance of the hard work and service still to be done in relation to our emotions or the emotions of others. So a chance to be realistic about what to let go of for Aquarius ascendant. And Pisces ascendant finds the 6th Lord in the 5th house. It is Jupiter in Gemini, in neutral dignity, is the Ascendant Lord. And that Ascendant Lord is in the 4th. And Saturn is also here in Pisces. And Saturn rules the 11th and the 12th for Pisces ascendant. Having the 6th Lord in the 5th, it maybe gives us that inspiration to work hard to improve our mind, to improve our intellect. Maybe it motivates us to be happy. And it supports us to serve children, the 6th Lord in the 5th, or maybe to serve government. And also to defend our legacy or our convictions and our opinions, what we believe in. Gives us a chance to understand what other people are going through, but could create some frustration with our creativity because we've got that 6th Lord of obstacle in the 5th house of our creativity. Our Ascendant Lord is on the 4th, we already talked about, and the full moon is taking place on the 5 and 11 axis, we're going to have the sun in the 5th house, the full moon in the 11th house twice. This axis is all about the balance between one's individual uniqueness and one's relationship and belonging to the collective. So where are we on that continuum of being the one and being one of many at the same time? Balancing the emotions of the self and of the tribe, and how to accept the emotions of reality and the self in the community. So in this case, we're going to have the sun being in the 5th and the moon is in that 11th house. So Capricorn moon is maybe giving us realism about this tribe or this community and acceptance of our unique emotions. So being able to live with the truth of both of those at the same time. Wow. Okay, once again, we have worked our way around incredible solar transit of Cancer. I'm feeling quite inspired by the solstice, the standing still, and the endings and beginnings. It seems like quite a different energy to solar Gemini, and I really look forward to your experience. So let me know how your solar Cancer transit goes. Okay, best wishes and look forward to seeing you next time. Bye, everyone.